Kung Fu is a term that most of us are familiar with. After all, it's been embedded in our culture since the 1970s. Whether through films or video games, Kung Fu has become synonymous with the mysterious badassery that we all pine for. But people often associate Kung Fu with the martial arts. I don't blame them. After being bombarded with Kung Fu movies throughout the 80s and 90s, Kung Fu became a term almost exclusively used to define action heroes of the era. Kung Fu, however, can be used to describe a focused effort to obtain any particular skill, not necessarily fighting. It's an achievement of excellence through strength of body and mind. It requires motivation, patience, and willpower. Just like playing a bad game. Now, ninjutsu, a martial art focused on trickery and subterfuge, is probably the Asian style that most Western gamers are accustomed to, thanks to an extensive selection of Japanese anime and gaming media that focuses around the ninja. Thanks for that, Japan. Thanks, Naruto. So we all know what the ninja are supposed to look like, right? But do you really? Do you? Well, Crouching Pony Hidden Dragon will definitely plant the seeds of doubt. This is a game that was originally developed for the 1990 Neo Geo platform with cartridges large enough to be their own missile silos. But since the Neo Geo has long since been discontinued, instead the game was recently published on the PC. The story, and I use that word loosely, revolves around the two main characters, Pony and Biki. First of all, that is not a pony. The internet told me what a pony is supposed to look like. This is a pterodactyl. Is that Marvel's new superhero? Man, they've got a lot of movies now, don't they? Secondly, there's Biki here, and I don't have any jokes for this. I think she's from California. Disclaimer, I don't know what California's like. I live in the South where we constantly fight possums and Civil War ghosts. So the game begins with Pony and Biki being tested by their sensei, Budget Wolverine. Good to see this game isn't going to be gender biased. And I'm not exaggerating, he's actually Wolverine.
The Wolverine.
I guess those Marvel movies really took him down a peg. God, they have so many movies! This butterfly is up to something, and I don't know if I like it. Without explanation, you're told to go and find the town merchant, who just so happens to be protected by an endless wave of colorful jobbers. You have three basic attacks, red and blue shurikens, and a close-ranged kick. In the vein of certain shoot-'em-up games, you can only shoot enemies or objects in the corresponding color. Otherwise, the attack will deflect back into your deformed pony's skull. Purple things can only be kicked. I don't know why, that's just the way it is. You have a jutsu power, which can make short work of all foes on screen, but you're limited to one, and they're exceedingly rare. It's possible to buy jutsu and health at the shop, as well as damage and speed upgrades. So she's not the merchant, she's just a merchant. They might want to be a little bit more specific. Behind those massive jubblies is a true entrepreneurial spirit, providing service to the town clearly composed entirely of sociopaths and gun turrets. You can respect that. It's our duty to support these small town business owners that, hold your horses. 1,000 money for a jutsu? Over 600 for the first damage upgrade. Do you know how long it takes to get that much money in this game? Or should I say, these golden honey crisps? Each earns you a single $1, while the big ones give you a whopping 10. She's a shyster, moving along. And this game isn't a slap match at your neighborhood kinder dojo. It's rough. You're gonna want those upgrades. You're gonna need them. Enemies rush at you from every conceivable direction. Some simply charge you, some have high defenses, others shoot projectiles or throw bombs. But no matter what colorful expendable you're fighting, it's a huge pain in the ass. Remember that throwing the wrong colored ninja star into an enemy causes it to bounce back, and you're going to get a lot of that, because the enemies always end up moshing together, making it almost impossible to hit the target you want. You have to spam every color until you eventually whittle down a group. Then you move on to the next pack, rinse and repeat. Ad nauseum. Vice versa. And you have no real agency to target the baddies as they constantly dive bomb into your line of fire. Having your own attacks betray you in a fighting game isn't fun. It's like if you were playing pool, but could only hit half of the balls. But then half the time you hit a ball, another ball leaps in front of your shot and punches you in the duodenum. What I'm saying here is that the color coordination adds nothing but aggravation to the game. It makes you feel even less satisfied than a round of Connect 4. It doesn't help that you don't have free control over your aim, and can only shoot in 8 directions. I know 8 seems like a lot, and I tell you to eat 8 Reese's Cups and that's a migraine waiting to happen. You take 8 gunshot wounds to the duodenum, equally bad time. I think the duodenum's about here. But you really start to feel the awkwardness of this limitation as the enemies adjust to it, moving slightly off axis so you can't hit them without jittering around wildly. It just makes the fights feel clunky and drawn out. Sweet Celestial, look at all this. Good thing you get a health carrot every 7 fights. You can buy more from Kathy Gale, but that dips even further into your ever-dwindling pockets. Keeps you from those upgrades you desperately need. You can't really sprint through this either. The game has an interesting mechanic that I like to call acquisitional bullshit, wherein gathering too many enemies immediately triggers an arena mode, trapping you within the screen and forcing you to kill a newly spawned wave of chodes. Look at all the health I have. After a couple hours of murdering prostitutes, you might make it to the stage boss. At least it's something different. Maybe this will pick up the pace a bit. Let me just show you this thrilling pinnacle of gameplay.
Give it to him.
It's just an endurance match. It's one of the most repetitive, uninspired boss fights I've ever experienced. No sane person who values their time would go through the hassle of beating this. No, forget it. As far as I'm concerned, the game ends here. You have to be pretty desperate to go through this bother. So, he's dead. On to the next totally unique and interesting stage. Look at all the Pepula Pews, who, might I add, are simply reskins of enemies I fought in the last level. It doesn't even feel like they tried to shake things up with different enemy types, or abilities, or anything. Hell, where's Wolverine? I'll take him as a playable character. What about the butterfly? I'll fight him. Just let something be different. I feel like this game could have been something unique and hilarious at one point. Instead, it's like an old person. It's weird and it doesn't feel good, although there's still that moldy hint of nostalgic charm that you can't help but enjoy here and there. Maybe in another time it could have been more memorable, but there's more dodo than dragon in this pony. Dactyl. Is that a hot dog statue?